Welcome to another episode of the Wolf and the Doctors podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Curry, alongside my co-host, Dr. John Devereaux.
And this should be a really interesting conversation. We were just talking before we started recording. Glenn, you have absolutely no idea what we're about to be talking about. And I think I like that. I like it just because I can kind of get your real-time reaction so people don't think this is scripted. Let's start with our quote of the week. So the quote of the week comes from a good friend of both of ours, Gary McLeod. So I saw him post this morning on Instagram, and he said, "You cannot deposit excuses." And it's something real simple, but it's profound at the same time, just because that's a heavy statement. But I know for both of us, we either have dealt with a lot of people who make excuses. We may have made some excuses ourselves. So I'm going to just put you on the hot seat real quick. And I know either, we've made a lot of excuses in the past, or we've dealt with people who make a lot of excuses. But where do you stand, at least, today on excuses?
I made a lot of excuses early on. I can admit that I made a lot of excuses early on, and I think it was just just not knowing what I was doing. So I was like, I'll blame everybody else. Like, it's not working because of this. It's not working because of that. Oh, it's their fault, and I was never taking accountability. So, I think that was the biggest thing for me. So, but once I learned what it was that I was doing, and understood, me and things happen or whatever, I started taking accountability for myself.
Right. And that's the key thing, taking that accountability. In my profession, I deal with a lot of students making excuses, especially when exam time comes around. Oh, yeah. So, to kind of combat that, I remember, earlier on what I would start doing after our first exam, I would go through the next class period. I would go through the entire exam. And I'll show students exactly where they could have found the answers, either in the practice material that we worked on or in the notes, just to say, there's no curveballs being thrown at you. So you really don't have any excuses. And like you said, it's all about that accountability and, just taking responsibility for your actions or lack thereof, in some cases. Yeah. But let's jump into the topic for today, which, once again, you have absolutely no clue about. No. But I've been finding some really good posts on Instagram from some of these accounts that I follow, and every time I see something really good, I just screenshot. I was like, man, because I need to get Glenn's view on this, right. And no better time than to do it while we're actually recording the podcast. So the image that I saw on Instagram, it was a summation of an article, and it said that the person that you will be in 5 years depends largely on 5 things. 1, the habits that you adopt. Okay. 2, the people that you spend time with. 3, the books that you read. 4, the food that you eat. And lastly, the conversations that you engage in today. So first, let me get your macro take on what do you think about that list? And then I'd like to kind of dive into each of those and talk about our own experiences with them.
Man, dude. Bravo. hey, whoever made that list, man, mic drop to you, man, because that list is hidden, man. It's probably the most truest statement ever.
It's really holistic is what I really like about it. It talks about things internally and external things as well.
It's whole combination, everything, man.
Yeah, so let's dive into it. Which one do you want to start with?
Man, start with, I want to start with one because it was about the, what was the first one that you said?
The first one was the habits that you adopt.
The habits that you adopt. Dude, I literally just made a video earlier this week about habits, right? Mm-hmm. Habits and routines, right? That is key, bro, because if you think about it, your success is mainly dependent upon the habits that you form, right? Right. So what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Because if you're building bad habits, you're going to have bad results, right? But if if you're waking up and everything that you're doing is aligning with the goal, so you're building that habit, and they say it's 21 days to build a habit or something like that. Yeah, dude, if you're doing something constantly for 21 days in alignment with what your goal is, you're going to be successful, period. Mm-hmm. Right? And you just got to keep doing that, man. So everything lies in the routine. Everything lies in the habit, man. That's spot on. That
takes me right back to our New Year's episode that we talked about And we was talking about, building your New Year's resolutions and then, forming those very healthy habits early on. And I agree with you all the way that, your habits can either make or break you. Yeah. Because, your daily actions, they're feeding one thing, either the good habits or the bad habits. Something's getting fed one way or another. So it really is about building those healthy habits that are going to allow you to, translate those day-to-day things into whatever your version of success is, Well,
here's a better question for you. How do you even build habits, and how do you know if you're building a bad habit? Right? Are you waking up too late? Is that a bad habit? Are you going to sleep too late? I mean, how do you even determine what's the bad habit and what is the good habit?
I guess if your actions are leading you towards or away from your goals. And I think that's why it's really important to have like those long-term goals, and not necessarily like long-term, like 5 years from now, but like, what's your goal for the month? I remember you actually mentioned this on one of those previous episodes where you were like, I have a goal for what I want to get for this year. So now I'm going to break that down into quarters, and then I'm going to break that down into a month. And now I know week to week what I need to do to get to that goal. And If I hit my weekly goals, then I'm going to hit my monthly goals. If I hit my monthly goals, then I hit my quarterly goals. If I hit my quarterly goals, then I'm going to be good for the year. Yep. Step-by-step progression leads you to whatever it is that you're trying to get to 5 years from now. So that's how I can say, like, okay, if that's what the target is what I'm doing today helping me to achieve those daily goals, which are going to help me to achieve my weekly goals, monthly, et cetera, et cetera. So if you notice that there's something that you're doing that is causing you to not be able to achieve those goals, then it should, suffice to say that, that's something that you need to change. Yeah. So I guess that's how I kind of would gauge things.
Agree. I think I'm pretty much the same way, and especially like you said, if what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, when it comes to habits, right? If it has nothing to do with your goal or what you have set for yourself, then like you shouldn't almost be doing it, right? Be like, because I mean, if you're, go ahead.
Okay, and I want to push back just because this is a conversation that my wife and I have had, before. Me, I'm a person, I always like to be doing things. Yeah. Always. I like to be busy, doing something. But I think with that, you can kind of negate the importance of taking that time to just sit back and relax and, kind of recharge yourself in a little bit. Because I think for myself, and I know you as well, like you can just go 24/7.
Nonstop.
And yeah. And sometimes it's important to kind of take a step back, chill, recharge your batteries a little bit.
I think it's okay, right? It's okay to take that time off, right? Because I mean, you can't work yourself out too much, right? You don't want to burn yourself out. But my biggest thing is don't take too much time.
Exactly.
Right? You don't want to take 2-3 weeks away from your business because it's hard to jump right back in, right? Exactly. Or pick up that same momentum. I mean, you go to work, right? And you ever took a vacation for a week and then try to get acclimated back into the work field. It takes like 2-3 days. So you don't want to take too much time off, but you do want to take some time to kind of, regroup or whatever. But yeah.
And in terms of like those habits, and that's a good point, it's really just finding that healthy balance. You want to make sure that you're building those healthy habits that are going to be conducive to you, achieving your goals. And I think taking a healthy amount of time to just kind of sit back, relax. And I think, as we read like some of these books that talks about like what millionaires do, they always meditate, in the mornings or something like that, taking time to just kind of, reflect. And that's what I was kind of talking about. So I agree with you all the way. But let's go to that second point, which was the people that you spend time with. And it feels like every episode we're talking about networking, one way or another. But how does the people that you spend time with ultimately help formulate the person that you're going to be 5 years from now? Good or bad?
Good or bad, yeah. It's like that old saying, right? You show me your 5 friends, I'll show you who you are in the next 5 years, right? So like your friends are the sum of who you are, right? So if you're hanging around people that's not successful, then it's likely that some of that's going to rub off on you, right? So I think it's important to have a group of people that you surround yourself with that are ultimately trying to do something, right? It don't necessarily have to be the exact same thing you're doing, but trying to do something as far as like reaching goals. And then ultimately, you'll reach your goal like in the next 5-10 years, whatever the case may be, because you got people who are like-minded like you, people who are striving for something, and each one of you guys can pull something from each other. So
something that you just brought up some really good points, and it reminds me of this quote that I seen. I'm going to have to pause the podcast for a second and find this picture.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Okay, so I was able to find that image. I had to scroll through all my screenshots. I'd be screenshotting things like left and right, during the day. Right. But it says the 5 types of people to surround yourself: people who are inspired, people who are motivated, people who are open-minded, people who are passionate, and people who are grateful. And
mic drop.
Yeah. Because when I was looking at like that quote, I was like, man, those are the type of people that you want to have, in your life, because all of those are positive qualities that will also feed into you as an individual. And I would think that if you're surrounding yourself with people, like for me, like people who are motivated, when I see, or if I'm around people who are motivated, that motivates me to want to do better in whatever field that I'm in, and it's like a healthy level of competition. If I see one of my friends doing really well, it's like, okay, I need to step my game up a little bit. And it's not that you're trying to, outdo them, but it's like they're making moves. I don't want to be left in the dust, so let me make sure that, I'm on my P's and Q's. So I think it's super important, like the people that you do surround yourself with, because like they say, birds of a feather flock together,
Yeah, and you know what was so dope about what you just said about those 5 different people? And it was right, it's 5 different people. It's because you as an individual can't possess all of those qualities in one, right? So you need different people to inspire you in different ways, right? So I think that's what's so dope about it, right? You might be a motivating person, right? But you need somebody who's inspiring, right? You need somebody who's the opposite of what you are. Like I said before, you need somebody you need to be pulling from your whole circle, your whole network, right? In order to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So exactly. I thought that was dope.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you definitely want to be around people who are inspiring, and it's just going to really just kind of fuel your fire in a sense. Like and I think the most important thing, like you said, is that you probably don't have like one friend who's going to do all 5 of those things for you. And that's why it's really important to have like a really good network, that you can, pull from people when you need to. Yeah. Because, I mean, there's going to be times, I mean, I know for myself, there's been times where I don't feel as motivated to do something, right? But if I call you up one day, you could be like, yo, Glenn, you could do X, Y, and Z. Just keep doing this. And you can motivate me. And it's great to have people like that in your circle, because sometimes, like you said, you can't do all of it. So you need those people to lean on, and it's important. Yeah, exactly. And I remember, because we talk often, off mic, and sometimes, like, man, when we get off the phone, like, because we could be talking about real estate stuff, we could be talking about business in general, some of the things that we're got in the pipe works. Is that the term?
Pipeline?
Pipeline, that's what it is.
Pipeline, there we go. Yeah, okay.
I was about to say in the works or later down in the pipe, whatever. People know what I'm talking about. So we've been talking about like some of those things, and then when I get off the phone, I'm like, man, let's go. Like, what can I do right now? Because it's like when you set those goals for yourself and you are motivated, it really helps you to be able to do the work that's necessary. And like you said, sometimes, man, you're not on go mode 24/7.
No, not at all.
So sometimes you need that little spark, to kind of get things going.
Yeah.
So the third thing was the books that you read. And I know that you're an avid reader. I actually got one of those books that you gave me a couple months back that I still haven't read.
Oh man, dude, take your time. Take your time and read it, man.
Yeah, I forget. It was something about
it's called the Best Syndication book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you're an avid reader. So how does that play into helping you to develop skills or learn certain things that's going to help you to reach the person that you want to be like in 5 years?
Dude, that's a great question. It goes back to like with me, right? I look at the greats, right? Millionaires, all of that, right? And you always try to find something that each one of them have in common. And one of the things that each millionaire or successful person, not even necessarily a millionaire, but just successful person, one thing that they always got in common is they're always reading, right? And I'm not saying you have to pick up a book. It could be articles. It could be things on the internet, right? It could be whatever it is, videos. It could be YouTube if you don't like reading, audiobooks, whatever. But my biggest thing is, one thing that I learned is every successful person is a lifetime student. Right. And for me, that's what it is. I'm always reading. I'm always trying to learn because I don't know everything. Things change. Right. If anything in your industry is the same, you're in the wrong industry because everything has to change. Everything has to move forward. So I'm always reading, always updating myself. And I ask a lot of questions. If I don't know something, I'm asking questions to somebody who may have an answer to it. But if you look at my bookshelf right now, I have. Me and my wife just put up a couple months ago. I probably got maybe like 10 plus books just on real estate, and I got that this year. Yeah. So just got to keep reading.
That's a really good distinction that you made because I think it doesn't necessarily, like you said, have to be books because you can be watching some of these TED Talks on YouTube or even like interviews with authors where they give you like a condensed version of the book. And like, for me, I'm a reader as well. Like, just in my profession,
you're a doctor.
I need to read a lot of articles just to kind of stay current with my field. But outside of that, I'm constantly listening to speakers, motivational speakers. And, like I said, some of my favorite authors, Robert Greene's one of my favorite authors. He constantly does interviews where he talks about motivating things and, breaks down his books and, other people like Simon Sinek. He's another author that I really enjoy. So just listening to either some of his TED Talks or interviews that they're doing with other, influential people, you can really gauge a lot of information, from that. So I think it's really important. I think what they're trying to get to, with the books that you read, is really about the knowledge that you're accumulating, Yeah.
And you know what? You made a great point, right? It's all about the knowledge, right? A lot of these books it's like how they made the mistakes and how you can avoid it, right? Yes. So that's like the best. That's like a blueprint, bro. It's the best thing in the world. But one thing I really do, and I notice that you do it a lot too, is podcasts. Dude, you can gauge so much information. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, you listen to a podcast, you can get all the information that you're looking for, especially if you tune into, more than one podcast.
Exactly. And even when I'm traveling, I rarely listen to music, especially if it's a long, distance that we're going, even an hour or so. I'll throw on a podcast just because you're soaking up that knowledge. And there's this difference. Somebody said the difference between knowledge is just having all that information just stored up there, but wisdom is when you're able to apply the knowledge that you have to certain situations. So you never know when that information that you've accumulated from a motivational talk or a audiobook or another podcast or whatever it is, how you're going to be able to use that information and translate it to your business that's going to produce something that's either economically viable or help you to gain something financially. So I'm a huge advocate for getting knowledge, but also understanding how to apply that knowledge to certain industries or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Agreed.
And then this next one's funny. So it's the fourth thing that will help determine who you are going to be 5 years from now is the food that you eat. Now, I'm kind of conflicted with this one, and the reason why is because I'm not going to act like I don't have this cherry cheesecake ice cream upstairs in the freezer that I'm about to dive into tonight.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not conflicted with it, right? My wife and I were talking about it, right? It's because it's about the foods that you eat, right? Because, naturally, I think it's people, we're craving the sweetest thing, the most fried type of food. That's what we crave. I think it's the most successful people, I believe, is the people who have the most discipline, right? And I think that's what correlates with the food and success, right? Is how disciplined are you to deny those cravings, right? To eat the right things, right? Because if you're disciplined, I heard this one quote, right, and it stuck with me. It said, "How you do one thing is how you do all things."
Yeah.
So if you're disciplined in your eating habit, you're also disciplined in your business. So I think it has a direct correlation with it.
And see me, and it comes all the way down to self-awareness. I have no discipline when it comes to sweets. Like, it's just as simple as that. And to your point, I see that in other areas. I have like what I would call
you're vegan now though. You're vegan now though.
Well, yeah.
So,
but I have like I have an addictive personality. If there's something that I like, I can do it like all day. So I enjoy working. I can work all day. I enjoy sweets. I tell my wife specifically, don't bring like certain foods into the house because, and I'll use this example. She brought some Oreos in like 2 weeks ago. I love Oreos. And my thing is, I can't eat just one. So, I'll go up there, grab one, come back a couple minutes later, grab two, take it downstairs, and then just keep doing that. And by the end of the day, 2 rolls of Oreos are gone. Right. So, to your point, where the discipline comes in for me is when I do go grocery shopping and I'm getting like some desserts, I buy like the little snack packs. So, it only has like 5 or 6 in it. So, I try to use that, for my lunches, because if not, like I said, I'll eat the whole roll. Yeah, go wild with the Oreos.
Right.
But that's a good point. Like, you really do have to be disciplined in what it is that you do. Like, for me, it wasn't nothing to cut out eating meat. Like, I think I stopped eating meat in 2017 is when I stopped, and I've never looked back. But that's just something that I'm able to do. Like, I just don't have the desire for it anymore. But I the sweets, I can't get rid of those though.
Oh man.
So let's talk about this really quick, because I know since you brought up the vegan, you go back and forth with it.
Right. Well,
so how do you make those decisions?
Okay, what going back and forth with vegan?
Yeah.
Dude, here's the deal. So I was vegan almost 2 years straight, right? No meat, no nothing, right? And what it was is, dude, I was craving, the bad stuff. But what it was, though, I did kind of backtrack with it. But I do eat a lot healthier now. You know, I didn't go completely back to all meats, only like lean meats like fish and chicken and stuff like that. But I still don't eat no dairy, right? I don't eat any dairy. I don't eat anything crazy like that. But my eating habits are a lot healthier now because I'm conscious enough of what I put in my body. Because like I said, what you eat and how disciplined you are has a direct correlation to how you handle everything else in your life. So for me, I'm not eating crazy. I'm always mindful, always thoughtful about what it is that I'm putting in my body. And yeah, I don't know how I go back and forth, man.
Well, like you said, it's really a healthy balance. It's like there's opposite ends of the spectrum, and one of the best things is to kind of be somewhere in the middle, Yeah. And I think if you have a healthy balance, it really just helps overall. It's not like you're going crazy, eating 20-ounce steaks, 3 times.
I don't eat beef. I don't eat beef.
Oh, okay.
I don't eat beef. I don't eat pork. So
yeah, funny story. Well, you're actually the one who put me on to becoming vegan.
Yeah.
I remember looking at you crazy when you told me, like, he was like, yeah, man, I cut out all the meat. I was like, you trying to go in on this pepperoni pizza or what?
Right, I remember, yeah.
I was the worst friend to have, for somebody who was going vegan. But, yeah, so the food that you eat. So the last one was the conversations that you engage in today.
Oh.
So the person that you'll be in 5 years, one of the things it says is that largely affects that is the conversations that you are having today.
Facts.
Where do you stand with that?
Well, the way I see it, right, is what conversations are you having with the people that you surround yourself with, right? Are you always trying to be in the middle of some gossip, right? Or are you always trying to be like, hey, yo, bro, I seen you just started that business. Hey, how can I get in on that? Are you constantly trying to engage with different people and, have conversations with people so that you can kind of better your life? It's all about the conversations, man. You got people who, I have people that I know, and I know a lot of people where the conversations we ever talk to them, it's always the same.
Yeah.
It's always the same. It's never about, trying to do more in life. It's always about, hey, bro, let's go party. Let's go do this. Like, this is always on the top of the mind. But when you start having conversations with different people who have different agendas in mind, on how to better their life, dude, it opens up so many doors because you're starting to, and that's a part of networking, right? What conversations are you having with people? What are you saying? Do they know you? Do you know them? Those type of conversations. So it's important. How do you see it, though?
No, and I think this ties right back into one of the other things that we talked about earlier, which is the people that you spend time with. The people that you spend time with is going to dictate the conversations that you're having. If I'm reflecting, at least on myself, the conversations that I'm having today, I see how it's going to help shape who I'm going to be in 5 years, or what I'm going to be able to have in 5 years, or what's going to come into fruition in 5 years. We talked about it on previous episodes. You and I have business ventures that we're looking to do. And those conversations, are in those preliminary stages today. But if you don't have those conversations, then it's going to be in those preliminary stages 3 years from now.
Absolutely.
And that's no good. Like, you don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to, wait too long to get things going. And I remember Tempest has been talking about this a lot as she's, doing her stuff on Instagram for like new authors. The first thing to do is start. Like, you can have these ideas up here in your head, but if you're not putting, any action behind it, or you're not having those conversations about how you can get it, to come to life, then it's going to stay up there, and that's not going to do you any good.
I think that's the point, right? Are you having those conversations for growth reasons, or are you having those conversations just to be having it?
Exactly.
And it goes back to, like, speaking everything into existence, right? You're talking about things today, but you're speaking about them 5 years from now, right? In hopes of. So, man, it's like everything has to be about growth.
Yep. In economics, we have this term. Well, when we're looking at the long term, we call it the visionary phase. And the long term is typically like 5 years. So in the long term, you can have whatever it is that you want to have as long as you're willing to put the work in today. If I'm a business and I want to be able to increase my capacity for my restaurant or my output in 5 years, I can do that as long as I'm accumulating the machinery and the labor needed to, reach that goal. So the same applies to like us in our individual and our personal in business lives. If I want to be a millionaire in 5 years, what am I doing today? Who am I talking to today to try to bring that, to life for myself?
And it's a great point that when you kind of tie it in that way. You think about, like, even businesses do it this way. Like, if you ever took like a business, look at what they're looking to do in the next couple of years, they're not talking about, hey, look, we need to do this today. They got projections, right?
Yes.
They're talking about it today, but look, we need to do this in the next 5 years, right? We have to be here in the next 10 years, right? So they're talking about it today, but they're talking about it today, but they're aiming for 5, 10, 20 years down the line. So they're always focused on growth.
When I was teaching at Western, we had a speaker come in. She worked for John Deere, and I forgot her specific title, but she referred to herself as a futurist. And for John Deere, she would look at the landscape currently and say, in 20 years from now, this is what we're anticipating. So they're planning for 20 years from now so that they're not left behind. And that's the same way that we kind of have to think. A lot of the decisions that we're making today are really going to affect, what we have, who we are, who we're around, what's available to us 5 years from now. And if I look at where I was 5 years ago and where I'm at now, and I see the potential of where I have to be, or I see the potential that I have, within like these next 5 years, man, the sky is really the limit. And that's for both of us. Like, I feel like, for both of us, we're still in the very early stages of what we're ultimately becoming. And the same is for like our listeners and the viewers. Where you're at now doesn't scratch the surface of where you are able to go as long as you're willing to put in the work.
So my question to you then, and it's not on the list, but how do you how do you even stay motivated, like knowing like your success or your, you know, the money that you want to make, it's not going to come today. Like it's not going to come for years down the line. So do you keep motivated and you're going to be broke for the next 4 years until you hit that 5th year? Like how do you just keep motivated?
Man, that's the college life. Like we both went through that. We were broke college students. So when you look at investment, you know, you're an investor, so I'm speaking your language now, but you know that the return's not coming today. Like if you plant a seed in the ground and you're a farmer, you don't expect that tree to just branch up, you know, the next day. Time's going to be involved in there. And I feel the same with in economics. Once again, we talk about investing in your human capital. Your human capital encompasses all the things that go into who you are and what allows you to be economically viable. You know, what resources you're able to bring to a job or something like that. So it's a process. It really is. And I think when you trust the process, that helps you to kind of stay motivated throughout the process. If I believe that the college degree is going to give me the ability to make 6 figures, then I'll kind of hold on to my $7.50 job at the cafeteria, you know, but knowing that this isn't where I'm going to end up, you know. If that makes sense. I'm not sure.
No, perfect sense. Perfect.
We would love to hear feedback, you know, from our listeners and our viewers. So do you guys agree with this, like those 5 things that we talked about, you know, that will help shape the person that you're going to be 5 years from now? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with those 5 things? Are there things that you guys think should be added, you know, onto the list as well, or something that should have been taken off? You know, we'd love to get you guys' feedback, you know, so make sure to comment under the videos, or, you know, send us a message and let us know what you thought.
And that's another episode of the Wolf and the Doctors podcast. Again, I'm your host, Glenn Curry, alongside my co-host, Dr. John Devereaux. And whatever you guys are listening to on whatever streaming platform, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.